We are back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson, and we are speaking with Annie Hardock.
Yes.
Not Haddock. Haddock is a fish. Hardock is Annie. We're speaking with Annie and Susan about the book Awakenings, which has a really long subtitle, but I like it.
Stories of growth, healing, and magical transformations.
How did you come up with that?
Well, my business is called Magical Life Institute.
Okay.
And
So your business is not just being an author.
No.
The
No,
story
no.
unfolds. Tell us about your business.
Well, I began back in, 2002, offering healing services to individuals. I had become, originally I was a biologist, and I have a master's degree in gene expression.
Wow.
And
That sounds super complicated.
well,
Gene expression.
I don't know. It's funny, the final awakening that I've really come to with all of this journey is that life really does happen for us, even the moments that we think aren't happening for us, and that there is definitely a thread that everything is pulling us together. So, originally I was a biologist. I was a forensic scientist for about 10 years.
Wow.
And had 3 children, and then became sort of overtaken with chronic pain and various other health issues. And when I left forensic science, I really didn't feel like I had much of a purpose, having grown up and
Done everything you were supposed to do.
all the supposed tos. Yes. Check, 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 check.
Yep.
And then I started studying energy healing. I became a Reiki master. I studied crystal healing.
Hence this beautiful amethyst crystal that we have on the table in front of us this morning.
Yes, it just wanted to be here today. And
Because it's not light, so you obviously must have intended to bring it here.
I did. I did, actually. And so as I started learning more and more about the unseen world and paying more attention to those non-physical experiences that I was having in life, things started to really get interesting. I started to ask a lot of new questions of myself, and I wasn't really at a point where I could start sharing those with the world, but eventually I was introduced to a computerized device, a biofeedback machine, by my family doctor. And it basically identifies where there's stress, blockage, and imbalance in the body, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And it brought together my scientific background and my spiritual and energetic trainings as well. So it really brought my whole world together. And then I started offering services to clients.
With this machine?
With the machine, with the Reiki, using crystals, it all, all the tools in my toolbox. And over the years, have just been going deeper into my own journey, which then allows me to take other people deeper into their journeys. And people show up who are ready to go deeper, And eventually, the name Magical Life Institute showed up, and that's still birthing, and I'm going through a rebranding right now. And what I really take people through is understanding the connection between their body and their mind and their feelings and the part of them that is bigger than who they've believed themselves to be. That we are souls. And most of us grow up maybe believing that we're bodies that have souls. And in my own journey, I've come to understand, because I've experienced myself as a soul that has a body. And I think that's an awakening that many people are starting to go through, which makes the timing of this book, in my mind, kind of perfect to support people who might be starting to wake up and ask questions. You know, we look out at the world and all the systems and all the structures that we've relied on seem to be crumbling, falling apart, and we're seeing them with new eyes. You know, things that 20, 30 years ago were okay and we just took for granted, sexism and racism and all of those things that were there but never really addressed, and never okay, but never really called out as how not okay they were.
Yep.
And, you know, that's what these awakenings are all about, is really challenging the status quo and finding the courage in ourselves to be who we truly are, not who we've been trained to be, not who we've been told we are or who we're supposed to be. And it's funny, you know, I've been finding myself lately saying that I'm realizing that there's never not been a time that my soul was in charge. You know, my human personality has certainly got in the way in my life, but when I needed to be course corrected, or even when I thought I was off track, I was being taken somewhere by something that was bigger than my personality or my ego. And I've always ended up being able to go, wow, that hurt like crazy, and it felt horrible, and I cried a whole lot of tears, but wow, have I ever learned a lot about myself, and I'd never be here had I not gone through that, which then opens the door for a whole new experience, because then when you're in that crappy place where you feel like poop and that you've made a big mess of everything in your life, I can sit back and go, okay, but I'm here for a reason. I've been brought here. I didn't make a mistake. I'm not broken. I am enough, and life happens for me.
That's a nice way of looking at it. That's your gratitude piece.
It really is. And the magic that I've experienced, the things that defy how things are supposed to work or how they do work, when I've been able to sit in that space and allow myself to feel my feelings, whether it's sadness or depression or anxiety or anger or resentment, whatever it is, to just feel it and not judge myself and not judge the external experience. Just be with it and breathe and say, you know what? This too shall pass. You know, Eckhart Tolle is one of my favorite lines from his books. And
this too shall pass, but then if it's a really good place, let's hope that it just keeps on like this.
Well, yeah. I mean, the pain of it will pass.
Yes.
And in the pain of it and in the surrender, in the allowing of the feelings in my being, there is an awakening that arises. You know, the cover of the book has the phoenix rising, because if we've believed that we're not enough, if we've believed we're not okay, that we have something to be ashamed of, all of those things, when you peel all that back, our souls just want to shine. They just want to create and communicate and express and dance and hold hands, create community and
be
love.
Alive.
And be alive, exactly. And, you know, those awakening moments really open the doors for that. And
So-
life becomes so fun.
So the idea came to you of compiling these stories, and I'm sure you have a million more if you're dealing with clients like this all the time. Watching people transform their lives is a fascinating thing. So you compile a bunch of stories, or did you set out and specifically ask these people if they wanted to participate, or did you kind of let them come to you?
There was a little bit of both, actually. I asked people such as Annie if they would be interested. And some of the people in the book are clients of mine who had great stories to share. And some of them are colleagues who are also, you know, fellow healers or authors or mentors of various types. And everybody has a profound story. So some of those people I knew and said, would you be willing? And some of those people just showed up, and in conversation and meeting them at an event where, one of the co-authors, I met her because we were both speaking at an event. And I said to her afterwards, would you be interested? And she's a shaman and a spiritual healer as well. And she shared a story from early in her journey. So, it's been a little bit of both.
Yeah, sometimes you put the intention out there and the universe just drops things into your lap and it all comes together, doesn't it?
Yep, that's the magic.
Okay. So is this a self-published book?
No, this is published by a small publishing house called Living Without Limitations Publishing House, which is owned by a woman, Anita Sashesky. She's in the Brampton area, and she herself is a registered nurse and had her own journey and created the publishing house, as part of fulfilling on her dreams and wishes and desires to serve and support people to share their stories.
Interesting. So did you actually send this book out to all kinds of different publishers and just see which one stuck, or did you know her in advance?
I knew her in advance because she had been publishing the anthologies that I had contributed to. Okay.
And so, Annie, what did you think when Susan comes to you and says, what do you think of this?
I actually was very happy that she asked, because I wouldn't have looked through my poems that I had written so many years ago. But because of the looking through my poems, I almost get a second awakening moment now.
Awakenings.
Yes, awakenings. But this time, the awakenings is a lot smoother and easier and happy, versus the first one was really difficult. I actually had the physical experience too, with the awakening moment. So it was physical, and then I didn't know how to deal with it, because then it manifests so many things, and I start to get scared because things happen. The more fear I have, it just manifests so many.
Oh, for sure.
Crazy. I
think we all have that, right?
Yeah.
It's the one little fear that all of a sudden you turn around and it's a whole hot air balloon full of it.
Yes. So I know it wasn't the time, but when Susan asked me at that time, it was the right time to publish, because this is just one of the poems, the story, that I think at earlier stage in my life, people may not believe in that. Even the one of those words, lines in my poem, talking about the I sprung into darkness until I heard my very own vibrations from the echo of my soul. You think about 18 years ago, when you say vibration, people are they don't relate it the same way.
They thought that you would have had a peace sign tattooed on your forehead and wear a lot of flowers. And that you were born in 1958 and participated in a love-in 1965. I know the feeling. Okay.
Right? That's why I'm just saying I didn't know where it come from. That's why it's spiritually inspired to me, because any of those poems that I have written, they were so quick. It did just flow, as if I'm just answering question. And normally the title came at the end, and the end was what the answer is for the guidance I need to how to go through the adversity. Like I mentioned, I wasn't the type of person just go and ask for help. So I keep searching what can help me or inspire me to continue when you're in depressions. And that's where all these poems came. And then I thought, oh, it works. It just changed my mindset. And it works. And so now, 3 years ago, when I look back into those poems, I thought, I think they are not just for me to keep, because I was the living proof of how I gone through those period of time. And I think it should be shared.
Should be shared?
Yes. And because the music, it's not just a poem, right? Even the music, it's I was just looking at the words in the poem, and I play on the piano, and that's where come the song, the music. And because at that time I didn't have a digital piano, I just keep playing until I remember it before I even write it down. And then there were ripple. There's a lot of sound of water and the ocean. how rough it goes. So
And
it's
the
the sight
waves.
and sound, yes. And that's how I just play on the on the piano. And then when I have trouble actually writing it because the water, when it flows, my fingers just keep going, right? And then I have to figure out when they're writing it on paper, what was I playing? I didn't know, but it just sounds great.
That's amazing.
And while Annie was speaking, I was thinking of some of the other chapters, and that we think certain things are possible or impossible, or likely and not likely. This is okay for everybody else, but not for me. There's one of the co-authors was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer.
Oh my
and
goodness.
given a very short period of time. And that was 5 years ago. And within the time frame that she was given to survive, she became cancer-free. And she talks about that journey.
Wow.
And, so there's a lot of different opportunities in the book, in the chapters, and to really, and I was thinking about when you were speaking just now, Annie, about vibration, 2002, 2005, vibration, when I would speak that to people, potential clients, they would sort of look at me like, what are you talking about? But now everybody's understanding what you mean. And even the concept of distance healing. And they say, well, how does that work? And it's like, well, it's like having a phone call on a cell phone versus on a landline. And oh, yeah, that makes sense. And now everybody just seems to get that. And it's very powerful.
They're starting to get it, I think. We're talking about it more.
Yes.
And the more you talk about something, the more you create an understanding.
Yeah.
Are we going to read something out of the book?
I would like to share one of the poems that I wrote.
Great.
Because I have, not every chapter in my part of the book has a poem with it, but many of them do. And again, these were spiritually inspired poems that just came through for myself, some of them in the late 90s and then in the early 2000s. So this one is called Beauty. Beauty abounds in the oddest of places, a grain of sand and little faces, the splendor of spring in each newborn flower, urging us onward to reclaim our power. Such joy to behold seems beyond our reach, yet spirit keeps calling us, offering to teach. I'm listening carefully now to each bird call, telling me how to live thoughtfully in love, joy, and peace. All the pain, fear, and anger may now be released. And I think that really sums up my intention for the book, is to bring us to that space where we are willing to stand in our power, to touch our power, to find out who we really are. And I personally believe that, we're both divine and human, and that as more and more of us awaken to that, the more magical our world is going to be.
Well, it's interesting that we were just talking about how Annie was saying that she writes the poem and then the title comes at the end. And here you are reading your poem when you say this is the intention of the book. It's 3/4 of the way through. Yeah. It's almost at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So
isn't that funny? So when you knew you were going to write a book, is this what you had in mind?
No, not at all. I mean, when I said I was going to do this particular book,
yes.
Yeah, I had a vision of, the co-authors chapters. I didn't know if it would be a co-author chapter and a chapter from me, or how it was all going to be structured. And really, I just had to drop in and listen. Even the order of the chapters was sort of dictated from, I received in more of a meditative state. So it wasn't really my ego going, okay, well, this chapter needs to be first.
Here, and then this one goes over here, like a big Lego puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole process, the whole project has been an awakening, so.
Have you ever wanted to do your own book? Just a book,
Oh, yes.
just all by you?
Yes.
Is that your next project, if we can ask?
Well, you're certainly welcome to ask. I feel like there are several books waiting for me.
Okay.
And some of it's been started, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
So right now, I'm very passionate about sharing the message of this book to get these stories out, because so many people are finding themselves in their own lives going, but how did I get here? And questioning spiritual experiences they're having, breakdown of life situations, where do I go from here, all of that. And I think there's a lot of wonderful experience and wisdom from all 14 of us.
Well, I think so too. It's a beautiful book. I love the artistry on the front. Did you illustrate that?
No, the publisher had that designed for us.
It's really pretty.
It's funny because we had a lot of discussion between the co-authors and myself and the publisher about what we would put on the cover. And I was, awakenings, you think of sunrises and butterflies and all of those things. And I was sort of resigned to the idea of a butterfly. And
quite overused.
Well, exactly, and that's what I felt myself.
When she shouldn't, but yes,
that's what I felt myself. And in a conversation with Anita, the publisher, she said, and I was telling her about the stories and what I was writing and what my co-authors were writing, and she said, "Susan, why is the cover image not a phoenix?" And I said, "That's what I wanted." But anyway, so. But often you think of a phoenix and it's a very warrior, masculine kind of an image. And that's not what we wanted. Because, one of the big awakening themes that's happening right now is the awakening of the divine feminine, to speak in more spiritual terms. And this phoenix, to me, embodies a very empowered yet feminine energy.
Well, in order for there to be a male phoenix, there had to have been a female phoenix. I'm just throwing that out there.
There you go. And so I love the image as well, and I've had some really lovely feedback about it. So
well, we'll put a picture of it on our Facebook page, so that if listeners out there are saying, this is radio, ladies, and we can't see the book, well, we're going to put it on our Facebook page, and then when you're curious listening to the podcast, you can come and take a look at the book. We'll actually use it as the cover of the podcast. There you go.
There you go. And I mean, it is orange and yellow and gold and things, all the colors of a sunrise. So we were consistent there.
Okay. And that's the symbology behind those colors?
Yes, I would say so. And then we have, the sort of in the letters of the main title, Awakenings, we go from gold up to silver. And to me, that is the balance of the masculine and the feminine coming together and recreating this world into something that is far more balanced, respectful, loving, and honoring of all of us.
Well, we've done shows in the past with a lovely lady named Angela Dacey who does color, and she's a color therapist. So
Beautiful.
She teaches how to use color and bring color into our lives. So Jason and I have become a lot more conscious of color. And it's interesting, too, from a physiological point of view. Orange is stimulating but not aggravating, whereas red can be very stimulating and aggressive and aggravating. Orange doesn't do that. And you'll notice a lot of traffic lights now have changed from stark white to a yellow or an orange hue because it keeps you awake but doesn't aggravate you. How's that?
Interesting.
There you go.
I didn't know
and
that.
Without even knowing that, you've got that orange happening all over that book. See?
In my mind, orange is the color of the second chakra.
Yes.
Which is creativity, sensuality, sexuality, empowerment, all of that. And
Oprah says all of us look great in orange. We just have to choose the right shade. How's that?
yes, I'm
Peach
more of
or coral.
I'm more of a burnt orange person myself.
Fall colors.
Yes.
You and I are old enough to know what fall colors are. I'm sure Annie here is a little too young. She's a little too young. Do you like being the baby of the room?
I think I'm older than lots of you.
I don't think so. Then again, who knows? Okay. I would really like to thank you both for coming. to the station this morning. I know you traveled a long way, Susan, to be here, and I appreciate your effort in coming in.
2 hours. It's all good.
Collingwood's so
Yes,
lovely. I
it
bet the
has
leaves
been.
are fantastic up there this time of year.
They haven't peaked yet, but they are getting beautiful. Yeah.
Halliburton's just about there, so you're a little further south, and yeah, it's going to be a nice year, I think, for color. I'm seeing a lot of orange.
Yes. There you
Oh
go.
my.
Yes.
But there is a lot of orange this year. In a lot of years we have a lot of red. Last year it seemed like everything died before it had a chance to turn color. It was a bizarre year
It
for
was,
colors.
wasn't it?
This year I think is going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. So again, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for being a part of Fresh Waves. If people want to get your book, how do they go about getting your book?
Well, it's available on amazon.ca, amazon.com as well. And I would say that's the easiest way, unless you know either Annie or myself. And you can get copies directly from us.
And Annie,
Yes.
thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
It's very nice to have you on the show since I've known you from a Toastmasters public speaking point of view. It's a different side of you now that I get to see. I mean, we have talked about your business in the parking lot in the dark and all that, as we spoke about earlier. But if people want to check out your networking group, how do they do that?
Actually, we actually have a networking lunch this Friday at Scrambles at Foxbridge Golf Club, and you know who's speaking?
And
Susan.
oh my goodness!
And
what is-
myself
what
and
is the
two
date?
other co-authors.
Because we do this on a podcast as well, so we need to know the date.
Oh, yes. This Friday, October 11th, 12 o'clock at
Scrambles.
Foxbridge Golf Club. Yes.
My daughter used to work there.
Yes. Foxbridge Golf Club in Uxbridge.
Uh-huh.
It's not far from here. So join us.
Okay, that would be
And-
fantastic.
And if people want to connect with me, I'm on Facebook under Magical Life Institute.
Perfect.
Yes. And I have my new site and Facebook page, and it's called Annie's Voice.
I like that.
I'm ready to release my other, like all my poems, my stories, and also photography.
Wow. Well, we look forward to that. Thanks again for joining us. You've been listening to Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson, and we're here every Wednesday at Whistle FM, and we're online at freshwaves.ca anytime you feel like listening. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.